from the News Channel 5 Network. This is Open Line.
Well, good evening and welcome into Open Line. I'm Chuck Long, glad to be along with you for the next hour. One of my favorite nights is tonight because it's one of our favorite guests here on News Channel 5 Plus. We're talking about Kevin Kennedy from the Kennedy Law Firm, of course, one of the top law firms in the state of Tennessee. And this is the night, every time we have Kevin on, we have so much great advice from him. If you have any of those legal questions, and I know so many times you call, you ask that question, so many other people benefit from the answer that Kevin gives. Great advice. Always glad to welcome you, Kevin. Great to see you.
Good to see you,
Happy
Chuck.
New Year.
Happy New Year. And I said, man, Chuck was looking so young when he came to the studio. I said, who is this guy? But he's dapper tonight, but it's always good. You know, Chuck is one of the most caring guys. We've been doing this show for years and years and years, so it makes it easy to do with people who care about others. And if they say, what about the show? That's really why we do this, is to try to help. If you knew something that would help somebody, man, let's just go ahead and help them. And it makes us feel good. It'll make you feel better and bring a lot of peace in your home. I always like to say that you've got family members and you have friends that may be a little intimidated about making that phone call. Well, you step up. You ask the question for them, and it'll make a difference. We love to share. We can make, and we will make a difference in your life. No doubt about it.
Absolutely. And, of course, the theme of tonight, if you're just tuning in for the first time, welcome. We're glad that you're along with us. We know we have many longtime viewers that tune in each time Kevin's on. Of course, the theme tonight is Ask an Attorney. So any of your legal questions, any legal questions that you have, whether it's about an estate, a will, whether it's about an insurance company, whether it's doing battle with the big guy and you don't know how or where to turn, this is the hour that you get those answers. And of course, Kevin, they've been in business, the Kennedy Law Firm, for over 35 years, and that amounts to a lot of knowledge. Kevin often says knowledge is power, and it makes sense.
Knowledge is power. You know, Chuck, I do believe he could take the bar exam. He has been brainwashed. They're not going to hoodoo you. This one guy said, Mr. Kennedy, what is hoodoo? I said, well, listen, my friend, when they hoodoo you, you will know what it means when they try to do you in. And, you know, the insurance companies that we deal with all the time, they are becoming more and more aggressive. What does that mean? Is it profits that drive their business? And so it comes from the top down, the board of directors, their stock. And so when that comes, they have to try to cut corners any way they can. So that's why a little knowledge goes a long ways. And so much of the time, what we really offer here are some options, some solutions. And one of the things I've learned over the years, Chuck, no lawyer can think of every solution in the first setting. No lawyer can catch all these different options in the first setting. So it has to kind of come in and it'll mull and you may think over it. And one of the secrets of the Kennedy Law Firm is bring the lawyers and the paralegals. And we say, what do you think about this? They'll catch me. I said, y'all excuse me a minute. Well, then I go and have a powwow. Quite frankly, I could have Chuck. I said, Chuck, what are you thinking about when we've got this and the DA may present? And well, guess what? My mind is processing as I'm explaining it to you. And we've had people say, okay, well, give me the answer. It's not quite that simple, because a really creative lawyer has to come up with this idea, and then, believe me, you do have a lot of those aha moments because I got the answer.
So many aha moments. And Kevin, as you talked about just a little bit earlier, we've been doing this show together for years and years.
Yes.
And it made me think back to the first time that I did a show with you. I just approached it from that vantage point of, why do you need a lawyer?
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, I have found over and over and over so many reasons it's best to always have the lawyer.
Absolutely.
I mean, the lawyer knows the answers. They know the background.
World. I have trained in my career now 158 lawyers. We had all those things and we went back and added them up. And what did I learn from all that experience? Golly, Chuck, if Kevin got in a jam tonight, I got plenty of experience, plenty of lawyers. But I'm going to get a lawyer to do the talking because my education is so sophisticated that we don't make statements. That's why we have lawyers, and we just increase our odds that the opposition cannot do anything with us. We know what to do. when to do, and how to do. So let us not be foolish and not do it.
That's right. And the law gets more and more complicated all the time.
Chuck.
So we, again, encourage you to call if you have one of those legal questions, 737-7587. We'll put you online with us. We'll talk to you live, and that's what we're going to do right now. Cynthia is our first caller of the evening. Cynthia, welcome. We're glad that you're here. Do you have a question for Kevin?
Well, it's more, yes, I do have a question. But also sort of a comment. I remember several years ago, maybe between 2007 and 15, I needed some legal help. And I was fortunate to be able to find legal help with, a little, I guess, searching. I was able to find some good legal help. And I didn't have a lot of money or anything like that, but I still was fortunate and I found lawyers.
Amen.
Recently, the last year or so, I needed to get a lawyer. And what I've found and discovered is that the quality of the legal attorneys, at least in this area, in the Middle Tennessee area, has gone down. It seems like if you don't have a case where an insurance policy is going to be attached, they don't want to talk to you. If you don't have a lot of money up front, they don't want to talk to you. And I'm just wondering, Mr. Kennedy, why is that? What is going on?
Well, thank you so much for that analysis. And, I concur with you. Wow, Kevin, what has happened? Well, what's happened is the insurance industry has bombarded the legislature with all kinds of laws that benefit the insurance company. So as we give up rights as individuals, then it puts insurance companies in a position that they can bully you. It puts them in a position they can just outspend you. They'll just deposition. What is a deposition? If we get into a problem, then it costs like $1,000 to type up that deposition. And if you got to get a doctor, he's going to want to be paid. Well, the poor people cannot generate, so then the insurance company says, we're not going to pay you. So, ma'am, thank you so much. My heart goes out to everyone who cannot get legal representation. And quite frankly, it puts a burden on the lawyers. I'm not criticizing the lawyers so much because they say, Kev, we don't have the money to back up and go pay all these experts, and we don't have the money. We can't finance it because we're not trying to charge the people too much. It's just not in our cup of tea. And what happens? The pool gets smaller and smaller, and that's why it's so valuable to have the Kennedy Law Firm. People all the time say, Kevin, why you got all those lawyers? It's a lot of stress. Because we have a lot of people that need help. The slogan is, we're committed to helping people. And if Chuck was down, I want to go out of my way. That's who Kevin Kennedy is. And this dear lady, even though we haven't met, I feel for her. And I had chill bumps when she said it. So our goal as lawyers and the public is to see that everybody has access to quality legal help. One other thing, they're putting more law schools out than ever. So now you've got more and more people. It's pressure on the law school to put students in that maybe weren't prepared enough, and maybe you're not highly skilled enough to go into the practice of law. So then they're dispersed, and guess what? Then they can't get jobs because maybe they weren't the top 10%. And you know who wants all the top 10%? The big law firms. So it's constant. So I can talk all day on that. But the truth is, there's still a lot of quality lawyers. And I feel good about them. And if you don't feel good about your lawyer, well, there's so many lawyers, go get a second opinion. It doesn't, quite frankly, at the Kennedy Law Firm, I'm getting a second opinion, a third opinion, a fourth opinion. And sometimes they'll all say, Kevin, well, you can't do that. I said, that's what you say. A lot of people said you can't, but I will say, I can. And so I'll try it in advance. A lot of times it works.
Makes a lot of sense. Cynthia, we're so glad that you led off with that comment and question this evening. We're going right back to the lines. By the way, you are watching Ask an Attorney on this particular edition of Open Line. So if you have that legal question, 737-7587. We go back to the lines right now. Brad is on the line with us. Brad, good evening. Do you have a question or a comment for Kevin?
I do. Thanks for taking the call. Kevin, I have posted a $100 reward on the internet on various websites regarding a an incident, let's say, I'll give you an example. You get pulled over by a police officer who comes up and tells you that you didn't use your turn signal. And he says, I'm going to need to see your driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance. So you pull the documents out and you hold them up. By law, it states the word show. What law in the United States requires an individual to surrender physically their paperwork to an officer when it is requested? That is my question.
Touche, my friend. I'm so glad. Yeah, the real world is when we're out there on the side of the road, we're trying to avoid getting a ticket because you're going to have to spend some, but you make an extremely valid point. Yes, that is an interpretation. Show me this. There's public policy, there's laws, and remember, Kevin Kennedy, the lawyer, dances in the interpretation of the law. So if there is a misunderstanding, I'm going to do whatever it takes to see that Chuck is getting out of this. But you make a very valid point. In fact, you ought to be a lawyer. And if you want to know about these discussions he just brought up, that's what goes on in the back rooms when we go to talk to district attorneys. Everybody says, well, what goes on? I'll tell you. We're in a room like that. District attorney's here, the police officer here. And usually what Kevin Kennedy does, and the lawyers at work, we go and talk to the officer and see if we can meet some common ground. And if it's a little misunderstanding, we try to work it out. And for instance, yeah, you make a good point, but remember, those officers can say, I'm drawing down, and here they go, and they may press us. Or you may get in with the district attorney. We've had a problem out of that guy forever. He knows who the murder guy is in this case, and he won't give it up. We're not cutting him any slack. He had a bad attitude, resisted arrest. Well, then we're dancing again. They say, what are you doing, Kev? I had one of my preachers say, I'm doing the Kevin Kennedy. I said, well, tell it, preacher. He said, I'm dancing a jig. And you dance with the DA, and you dance with your client, and you dance with the police officer. And usually, if we're non-abrasive and we're skilled in that negotiation, we're going to find some common ground. As long as they'll let Chuck out and they don't hurt my client, we're going to find a way out. But, sir, that is exactly why you need a lawyer, because you're right. It won't show that. It gets down to interpretation. And then when it meets the road and they say, we're going to put Chuck in jail for 11 months, 29 days, Chuck's going, he said, Kevin, how are we going to do the show? They're going to try to lock me. I said, don't worry, Chuck. They hadn't got us locked up yet. When there's a will, there's a way.
All right, and I would be very confident with that, Kevin, so thanks a lot. Great call starting our show off this evening. We've got a lot of you online right now. Please stay online with us. We're going to take a short break and then more of those calls right after this. You're watching Open Line.